The world thinks monsters are born from darkness, but the truth is they're born from struggle, from the fire no ordinary soul can survive, from the pain that crushes most people, but becomes fuel for the rare ones like you. The ones who refuse to collapse even when everything in life is designed to break them. The ones who carry scars, not as wounds, but as proof of evolution. Because you weren't born to be soft. You weren't born to fit in. You weren't born to walk the safe road. You were born to break limits, to terrify failure, to intimidate fear itself. And that's exactly why your journey has been harder than most. Because fate only throws storms at people capable of conquering them. And deep inside, you always knew you weren't normal. You weren't meant for a mediocre existence. You weren't meant to bow down and accept the life others chose for you. No, you were meant to rise. And you were meant to rise violently, like a force the universe has been waiting for. Like a monster that slept too long inside your chest, waiting for the exact moment when the world pushed you too far. The moment when breaking would either destroy you or awaken something far more powerful. Something the weak will never understand, because when they mocked you, they never realized those insults were sharpening your focus. When they doubted you, they never realized their doubt was building your resilience. When they left you alone, they never realized loneliness was teaching you self-belief. When they pushed you down, they never realized you were quietly learning how to stand without anyone's hand, becoming self-made in silence, forging your identity in pain, and transforming into someone they will one day fear. Because you weren't born a monster, life made you one. And instead of breaking, you embraced the transformation. You learned that monsters don't chase approval, they chase purpose. They don't seek comfort, they seek challenge. They don't cry for help, they build themselves from dust. They don't run from fear, they swallow it whole and turn it into domination. And every single night you spent staring at the ceiling thinking you weren't enough was actually the training ground shaping you into something unstoppable. Because greatness never grows in comfort. It grows in the fire of responsibility, disappointment, pressure, heartbreak, failure, and chaos. And that chaos didn't come to destroy you. It came to sculpt you, to mold you into someone whose power can no longer be ignored. Someone who doesn't need validation. Someone who doesn't need applause. Someone who doesn't need permission. Because once you realize your strength comes from what you survived rather than what you were given, you stop living small. You stop being afraid. You stop letting people control what you can be. And you start becoming the version of yourself you were always meant to be. The version that wakes up with purpose, fights with discipline, grows with pain, and walks with a kind of silent confidence that makes everyone who underestimated you regret ever doubting you. Because this is your rise. This is the moment your inner monster steps out of the shadows. The moment your old self dies and your unstoppable self takes over. The moment you stop explaining yourself and start executing. The moment you stop hoping and start becoming. Because you have wasted enough time trying to please the world. Now it's time to shock it. You've wasted enough time hiding your potential. Now it's time to unleash it. You've wasted enough time thinking you're not ready. Now it's time to prove you were born ready. Because monsters don't wait, they strike, they move, they dominate. And you are stepping into that version now. The version who no longer fears failure because failure is where you found your strength. The version who no longer fears judgment because judgment is what made you sharper. The version who no longer fears being alone because alone is where you became powerful. The version who no longer fears pain because pain is the language your evolution speaks. The version who no longer fears the unknown because the unknown is where monsters thrive. And from this moment on, you will rise without hesitation. You will grow without permission. You will transform without apology. Because everything you've been through wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Preparation for a life so strong, so powerful, so unbreakable that the old you wouldn't even recognize it. Because the world tried to bury you, but it forgot that you were a seed. The world tried to break you, but it forgot you were unbreakable. The world tried to silence you, but it forgot you were born to roar. And now this roar will shake everything that once stood against you. Because you're done holding back, you're done shrinking for others, You're done pretending to be weak just so people feel comfortable around you. You're done living small. You're done apologizing for your ambition, because monsters don't apologize. They rise, they conquer, they become legends. And that's exactly where you're heading. Not because of luck, not because of talent, but because of the fire inside you that refuses to die. The fire that keeps burning, even when everything around you collapses. The fire that makes you unstoppable. And as long as that fire exists, there is not a single force in this world that can cage you. Not fear, not doubt, not failure, not judgment. Because you are no longer the person life tried to break. You are the monster life accidentally created. And now the world will remember your name not for who you were, but for who you became. And as you stand here on the edge of everything you used to be, looking into the mirror at the reflection that once felt fragile, you realize that the monster inside you isn't something to fear, it's something to use. Something to sharpen. Something to unleash on the world with purpose. Because people only call you a monster when they cannot understand the strength you carry. When your confidence threatens their insecurity. When your ambition exposes their laziness. When your discipline reminds them of everything they gave up on. And instead of shrinking yourself to make them comfortable, you are finally learning to embrace the truth that monsters are simply humans who refuse to stay soft in a cruel world. Humans who decided they would rather evolve than collapse. Humans who turned heartbreak into hunger. Betrayal into motivation, weakness into strategy, fear into courage, and doubt into dominance. And you are one of those rare few who didn't let life shatter you. You let it rebuild you into something far more dangerous, far more focused, far more disciplined, far more unstoppable. Because your story has never been about being born powerful. It's about becoming powerful in a world designed to keep you powerless. It's about building strength in places nobody cared to look. It's about choosing growth even when growth was painful. Choosing progress even when progress was slow. Choosing discipline even when discipline was lonely. Choosing purpose even when purpose required sacrifice. And now that you have walked through all that fire, you finally understand that nothing can truly defeat you except the version of yourself that refuses to try. And that version dies today. Because from this moment on, you are no longer the person who hesitates. You're the person who executes. No longer the person who fears judgment. You're the person who ignores noise. No longer the person who waits for the right time. You're the person who creates the right time. No longer the person who breaks under pressure. You're the person who grows under pressure. No longer the person who runs from challenges. You're the person who hunts them. Because the monster in you is not a creature of destruction, it's a creature of transformation. A symbol of your rebirth. A reminder that you survived what should have destroyed you. And that survival rewired your entire being into something sharper, something wiser, something stronger, something unstoppable. And now when people look at you, they won't see the same person they once knew. They won't see the softness they took advantage of. They won't see the weakness they used to mock. They won't see the insecurity they tried to amplify. They will see the eyes of someone who has been to war with his own mind and won. Someone who has buried old versions of himself and risen stronger each time. Someone who carries calmness not because life is easy, but because he has survived storms people can't even imagine. Someone whose silence is more intimidating than their shouting. Someone whose presence demands respect without speaking a single word. Because that is what happens when you stop running from who you are and start embracing every part of your evolution. Even the dark parts, even the painful parts, even the parts you once hated. Because those parts built you. Those parts sharpened you. Those parts made you the monster the world was not prepared for. And now that you have stepped into this form, you cannot return to who you were. Because that person was built for survival. But this new version of you is built for domination. Built to conquer dreams that once felt impossible. Built to break generational limits. Built to rewrite your destiny with your own hands. Built to walk into rooms with a presence that feels like thunder. Built to move through life with the confidence of someone who has nothing left to fear. Because fear itself fears you now. Doubt runs away from you now. Failure avoids you now, because you have mastered the mindset that transforms ordinary men into legends, the mindset of relentless evolution, the mindset of brutal self-belief, the mindset of unshakable discipline, the mindset of a monster who doesn't just survive the darkness, but becomes the darkness, becomes the storm, becomes the force people whisper about. And the more you grow,